In this video, we're going to talk about copying, editing programs. We're going to utilize our Square program. So the first thing we're going to do is we're not going to work on the actual Square program. We're going to copy this program so we have another one to work off of, so we still have the original. So if we go back to the Select button, and here's Square, and what we're going to do is we're going to arrow over, and you'll see this first. You have type, create, delete, monitor, and attribute. We're going to arrow over to where you see copy. We're going to go copy. It's going to ask you what do you want to copy from, and then what is the new name. So we're going to go to options keyboard, keyboard, and we're just going to call this maybe square underscore 1. Exit. So now we have square 1, copy OK, yes. So now we have the exact replica of our square 1. It's just like hitting save as on a Word doc or a different name. So let's go to square 1 and then let's load this. And you can see we have the exact replica of our program. Now if you made a mistake or if you need to do something else where you have a program that is irrelevant anymore, you can easily delete it. So we can go to select. And then we can say we want to delete square 1, so we click it, and we're going to arrow over to where we see delete. And just know that once you delete something, you cannot get it back. It's not saved in the memory so that you can't undo it. So make sure that you fully understand what's going to happen once you hit delete. So I'm going to hit yes, and now it's deleted. Again, we cannot get this back. So let's actually copy this again so we can work with the program. So that's copy and delete program from our list of programs here. So I'm going to go over, I'm going to copy, and once again, options keyboard, keyboard, and I'm going to go square 1, exit. And yes, I'm going to go inside that program, enter. So now that I'm in the program, so what I'm going to do is now copy, paste, and insert different lines in the actual program itself. So that was copy and pasting programs outside. Now we're actually in the program, and we're going to do some copy, pasting, deleting inside the actual program itself. To modify things inside the program, we're going to arrow over, EDCDM. And you've seen me use this a couple times for inserting lines. So let's actually look inside here and see what is actually utilized in here. So insert allows you to add different lines so that you can have spaces between or to add code later on. Delete obviously deletes certain lines of code. You can delete multiple lines of code if you choose to. We can also copy and paste, and we can also cut items, much like you can do in a Word document. If we need to find a certain registry or a certain line of code, we use find. We can also replace objects, for example, registries, speeds, motion group. Next one is going to be renumber, which allows positions to be renumbered sequentially from start to finish. And then we have comment, so we can make a comment in the editing screens. If we arrow over, there is undo, but can only undo so many steps, the last thing that you did for our actual program. So if you made a mistake a bunch of steps behind, you will not be able to undo it. So this is very limited. So if I go arrow over, we can also add a remark. You saw me make a remark before in the actual program. Then we can also make different colors and exit icons inside our program. So if I close this out, say I want to add a line in between the home position and then the square position, so adding a space between these different areas. So example, if I go to number 4 here, so if I click on the actual number, ECDM, then it asks how many lines you want to insert. We're going to just add one line here. So we go in here, we can go 1, enter, and now we have a line in between here. So I can go to number 7, and we can insert another line if we choose to. And Roboguide will ignore any lines that are not being used. So it's very easy to put in, and it keeps your program very easy to read. So I'm going to go down here. Let's insert a line space and also enough lines for the heading as well for the home position. So we're going to make home position and home position. So I'm going to go ECDM, insert, and this one we're going to add 2. So we're going to go 2, enter. Now we have 2 lines, so now I can go down to this line right here, and we can add our remark. So new instruction, miscellaneous, remark, and then we're going to go home position. There we go. So we have 2 lines now, and we use one of those lines for the remark. So that's the insert. Let's go down to the end, and let's copy this line of area of code. So the square program, so where it does the first point and back, and let's copy this so that it actually goes backwards. So I'm going to go into EDCDM, and we're going to go to copy. So I'm going to click 13. I'm going to go select, and I'm going to arrow up until I get to my second point. I'm going to click to the end, and then we'll go paste. And there's a couple different pastes. The first one is logic, which pastes all the lines exactly as you copied, but it leaves all the recorded spots out. So it'll be just dot, 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 and you would have to re-record or put in the numbers you have saved already. The other one is pause ID, which pastes the lines exactly as you see it as you copied. So it'll actually put in the numbers as you see it. The next one is position. So position pastes the lines exactly where they were copied, but renumbers everything as well. So it renumbers, so you can see 2, 3, 4, 5, but it renumbers each of those positions. So the numbers will become 6, 7, 8 for the new numbers. Okay. Then if we arrow over, you'll see the R logic and R positive ID. So these are pasting things in reverse order. We have R positive, which is paste instructions in reverse order and renumbers everything. So it's just basically reverse order, but it's same as this, where you have without the numbers, with the numbers, and then new positions. This is doing the same thing, just reverse order without the numbers, with the numbers, and then with new positions. So we want to go in reverse order, but we want to keep the numbers. So we're going to go R pause ID. So we'll click that, and you can see now everything is in reversed order. So we also need to make sure that we are coming down to our first position from our home position, because right now we're not coming down from the home position, we're going linearly to line number 2. So you can see there's line number 2. So we need to come down from a home position just like we did on our first square program. So let's insert 2 lines, actually 3 lines. We need a space, we need our heading, and then we need our number going down. So if I go to, and I'm going to go up to number 17, which I'm at, I'm going to go there, insert, we're going to add 3 lines, and our first line is going to be our remark. So I'm going to go miscellaneous, remark, and I'm going to call this square program backwards. There we go. And then we need jog down to position number 2. So I'm going to go add move point, joint movement, and that joint movement is down to number 2. There we go. And now we have our position. So if we want, we can copy this and paste it down. So let's actually copy this to line 15. Let's leave actually a heading here. So we're going to go down, move over. We're going to go to copy and select. I'm going to arrow down. There we go. And I'm going to go copy, go to the end, paste, and this is just going to be a normal paste where we want to have everything exactly how it is. So we're going to go pause ID, and now we have our home position down below. Okay. So now let's give this a try and see if it works. So I'm going to go over to the 23. If I hold shift and arrow up, it gets me up there a lot quicker. All right, so let's run it, see if there's any errors. So front goes correct, up to there, down, backwards, and looks like we made a mistake. So we forgot the last position, which goes from P3 down to P2. So let's look back into our program and see what's going on. So I'm actually going to delete that profile. There we go. And let's turn the teach pendant back on, and let's look back at our square program. So I'm going to arrow down here. So we're going to go down to point 2. From point 2, we're going to go to point 5. So I can see what we did. So we actually copied too many things when we did that copy reverse order. So we want to go down to point 2. Okay. And then this is actually a linear line to point 2. So we're already at point 2. So this program is actually, or this line of code is not actually running the way it's supposed to. So let's cut this line and paste it down to this position right here. Okay, so let's go down to EDCDM, and we're going to go copy, go to select, and we just want this line selected, so we don't have to arrow anything. We're going to go cut, and then we're going to go down to line 23, and we're going to paste, and we're going to just paste with the number with it. So paste it in there, and now we have our position down below here. Okay, so we didn't have to delete it, we just cut it out of that position and then paste it down below. So now let's turn the teach pendant off. I'm going to go shift up all the way to the top, turn off shift, enter, and then we are going to run the program. So let's watch it go. Forward, up, and then backwards. There we go. So using the modification tools, we can easily and quickly create modification of programs, and we don't have to sit there and reteach each position over and over again. So the copy and pasting is a very, very useful tool. So the next thing let's look at is find. So let's go to find, and we can find different things. So we can find a register, ins and outs, if statements, wait statements, jump statements. These things we haven't really talked about yet, but we will. So let's actually find a remark. So if you notice how I have a heading on each one of these different areas of code, I can go miscellaneous, and then I can go to remark, and notice how it highlights in remark, and I can go next, and it jumps to every single one of those remarks. So I can quickly scroll through the program to find the different parts of that program. So I'm going to move up to line 1, and we're going to do now replace. So replace allows you to search different lines, everything below where your cursor is at right now, and replace them with a certain number. For example, oops, I made a mistake of 2,000 millimeters per second. I want these all to be 2,500 millimeters per second. So I can go replace, and then I can go to motion modify, replace speed, and then I can change only the linear movements. So I can go linear, and I'm going to change the speed value, and we're going to keep it millimeters per second, and then we're going to add actual value. So let's go, instead of 2,000, let's go 2,500, enter. So now it's going to go to the first line where it finds it. So yes, do I want to change it, or I can swap out and I can go next. So yes, next, yes, and notice how it's changing all the speed parameters really quickly. Now later on we'll talk about registries, where we'll set these up as a registry instead of an actual number, so that you only have to change it in one place. But for now, this is a very useful tool. So notice how we're all done, and now it exits us out of that replace. All right, next we're going to go through deleting. So example, let's go down to our square backwards. And I'm going to go to our item, and we're going to go delete. And we can select what we want to delete. So we can arrow down, and it will delete everything. So I can arrow down to the last line here. Or you could do one line, and we're going to hit yes, and it deletes. Now, when you delete something, if you made a complete mistake, you have to make sure you go to undo now, because remember that undo will only undo the previous thing that you did. If you start doing more things, then undo will not undo that delete. So if we go to our choices and go undo, it's going to say undo delete, yes. So then it brings back then undo. So undo is very limited. So remember that if there's something that you made a mistake on, undo it right away. Do not wait. The last thing we're going to do is a remark. And basically a remark takes out a line of code without deleting it. So you can debug certain areas of your code by remarking it out. So it's a common thing you'll see in computer programming. So example would be if I remark out joint number 4 or point 4 of the square backwards program. So I'm going to go numbered line 21, and we're going to go to remark, and we go remark, and notice how it's now remarked out. So you'll see what happens to our line. Notice how it goes from here up, and then you have a diagonal line because it's now skipping that line of code. So let's actually see it run. Comes down, does our first program perfectly fine, but then we get to that remarked part, and notice how it jumps and skips over point number 4. And you can easily unremark something by going down. Let's turn teach pendant back on, and I go down to that remark area, and I go over here and over remark, and then unremark will unremark it, and now we notice how we don't have that diagonal line anymore. The last thing we're going to go through is sometimes if you're jumping between programs, you're going to get a run error, which means this is being ran by a different program or used by a different program. For example, if I go to square to oval, sometimes it will give you cannot run because something is being used. If you ever run into the scenario, just go to function and go abort all, and it aborts all, and then you should be able to run the program with relative ease. In the next video, we'll continue working with the program manipulation and bringing other programs into another